Chapter 1, 1646. Fang Zheng's Immortal Ascension. Translator, Atlas Studios. Editor, Atlas Studios. Central Continent. The sky was dark and gloomy. There was no wind. Gu Yue Fang Zheng stood at a mountain peak, looking at the sky. He felt a bit of nervousness, thinking about his upcoming Immortal Ascension tribulation. Sensing his emotion, Fang Zheng laughed to himself, thinking, "Why am I nervous? Immortal Crane sect should be the nervous one, or rather, the heavenly court behind them. On the surface, there is only one rank 6 Gu Immortal in charge of guarding my ascension, but there must be many eyes watching me in secret. With these people around, what is there to worry about?" Even though Fang Zheng did not know why Central Continent wanted to support him, he had confirmed that he was valuable and of use to them. In the past, he would not accept being a pawn like this. Back in Qingmao Mountain, Fang Yuan had hinted that he was used by his uncle and aunt as the tool to fight for the inheritance. This made Fang Zheng very angry. But now Fang Zheng no longer felt anger towards this. In the last decade or so, Fang Zheng had experienced the war in Langya Blessed Land's 3 continents. In order to nurture the most elite hairy Mangu immortals, the black-haired land spirit disregarded the price and made the hairy men of the 3 continents fight in an intense war. Fang Zheng was implicated. Surrounded by schemes and plots, bloodshed and war, Fang Zheng had made use of people and was also made use of. He gradually understood that sometimes becoming someone's pawn and being used was not a bad thing. At the very least, it proved his worth. If a person did not have value to even be a tool, then he was in danger. He would be discarded like a faulty tool. 1. Of course, even though Fang Zheng had rank 5 Gu Master Strength, he also had experiences of being abandoned and betrayed. As a human living among the hairy men, it was natural to be ostracized and isolated. "We can begin." At this time, Fan Shi Lu's voice resounded in Fang Zheng's ears. Fan Shi Lu had rank 6 cultivation level. He was sent over by Immortal Crane sect to help Fang Zheng undergo tribulation. Fang Zheng nodded. He calmed down and looked inside him. His aperture was quickly seen. It was filled with primeval essence that showed his A-grade talent, but his walls were filled with cracks. Anyone would feel nervous upon seeing it. After all, the aperture was the basis of a Gu Master's cultivation. With so many cracks, it was definitely a severe issue. Fang Zheng was relatively calm now. His nervousness had vanished. In fact, during a battle in Langya Blessed Land, he had used a forbidden technique while in a desperate situation. Even though he survived, his aperture was severely damaged and filled with cracks. His A-grade aptitude fell to B-grade. Fang Zheng was saved by Feng Zhugo. After returning to Central Continent, his injuries in the aperture were healed. He returned to having a great aptitude. But the cracks in his aperture walls still remained. It was not that Heavenly Court could not heal him, but they left those for him to undergo his Immortal Ascension tribulation more easily. Fang Zheng observed his aperture. He had once felt extremely proud of his A-grade talent, but after these life experiences, he no longer cared about aptitude so greatly. Right now, his gaze was stuck at the cracks in his aperture. To him, these were his achievements. He had gained these wounds from bloodshed and war. It was his glory. "Goodbye, my aperture," Fang Zheng muttered. As he willed, the primeval essence in his aperture surged and crashed into the surrounding walls. There were cracks in his aperture to begin with. It was not sturdy soon. The cracks intensified as holes formed. The complete aperture finally connected to the outside world. A mysterious power was forming. This power drew in the heaven and earth shishi of the outside world. At once, dark clouds rumbled in the sky. The earth was shaking. Dust clouds were forming. At the same time, a formless heavenly power held up Fang Zheng and allowed him to float into the sky. "Heaven's will!" Fan Shi Liu, who was watching in concealment, sensed abundant heaven's will. Fang Zheng's tribulation had drawn the attention of heaven's will, far beyond normal. The calamities and tribulations started forming. A large amount of blood chi was converted from the heaven and earth chi. The dark clouds in the sky were quickly dyed red. The scale was huge. They could be seen from an enormous distance. "Blood path tribulation?" Joy flashed in Fan Shi Lu's eyes. The blood path tribulation was what the higher-ups wanted to see. Fang Zheng's aura started to spread out. This was his human chi. Every person had their own human chi. The scale was decided based on their foundation, talent, and abilities. Fan Shilu observed Fang Zheng carefully. Soon he had a look of surprise on his face. Fang Zheng's human chi was extremely dense. It showed how much life experiences and foundation he possessed. One heaven chi was raining down, while earth chi was bubbling up, both intertwined in the air with human chi. Fang Zheng had a solemn expression. He tried to control the three chi and balance them. The three chi had just started interacting, and now was the best time to get used to controlling them. Fang Zheng had received Fan Shilu's guidance. He was aware of this. But at this time, the calamities and tribulations were completed. A large amount of rain fell. These raindrops were all blood droplets. They were extremely bloody. As the blood rained down, white fog started to appear in the air. The white fog was quickly dyed red by the rain, turning the entire mountain into an eerie red color. Fang Zheng started to undergo tribulation. He put up his defenses and activated goo worms to resist the blood rain. At this time, whenever he used a goo worm, he would suffer a backlash. Soon his goo worms died from the backlash. This was also why goo masters would often lose all of their goo worms after Immortal Ascension. But Fang Zheng was supported by Heavenly Court and had deep preparation. He did not lack goo worms. He calmed down and defended himself, not panicking. During Langya Blessed Land's wars, he had experienced far more dangerous situations. He was adequately prepared for this. Fan Shilu was much more nervous than Fang Zheng. He stared at Fang Zheng without blinking. Rank 5 goo masters usually had a lot of difficulty in their Immortal Ascension because they not only had to deal with the calamities and tribulations, but also control the three Ku and maintain balance between them. I can help you to block this blood rain tribulation for a while, but the balancing of the three Qi will depend on you, Fang Zheng. Before the tribulation, I had given you ample training. You cannot fail at the crucial moment. Fan Shilu thought to himself as he started to disrupt the blood clouds, affecting their size and influence. Even though this blood rain tribulation was huge, it was not too overbearing. It seems that heaven's will had done this intentionally. Fang Zheng's tribulation was peaceful, be it internally or externally. One, the three could fuse properly. Scenes of the past flashed in his mind as his body became tempered and elevated. Next, during the heaven and earth resonance, he entered the most crucial moment of this immortal ascension. During this period, he could gain natural inspiration and communicate with heaven and earth. This communication was extremely beneficial to any goo master. Fang Zheng realized at this moment that blood path really suited himself. Time passed, the three qi condensed and formed into a lump of qi. Fang Zheng suddenly opened his eyes. He breathed in deeply and tossed a rank 5 blood path goo into the lump of qi. Boom! A shocking sound exploded around him. The qi lump burst out and turned into an immortal aperture. Instantly, Fang Zheng's mind became blank. He was completely defenseless at this moment. A moment later, he regained his senses. He started to put his vital goo and important goo worms into his immortal aperture. The first one he put in was Blood Revenge. Immortal goo, of course, followed by a large number of blood path mortal goo. Within the immortal aperture, the three qi were conditioned and balanced. The world gradually stabilized. He obviously gained a high-grade blessed land. There was also a lot of heaven and earth qi remaining. Fang Zheng was overjoyed. These heaven and earth qi could raise his vital blood path mortal goo into an immortal goo. Even though this was dangerous and there would be following calamity or tribulation, Fang Zheng was courageous enough to choose this option. Fang Zheng, quickly let me in. I will help you with the tribulation, Fan Shi Liu transmitted. Fang Zheng frowned, showing displeasure. The immortal aperture was the most private area of the Gu Immortal. Fan Shilu was infringing on it. Fang Zheng felt a sense of anger. But immediately Fang Zheng relaxed his brows. He opened the immortal aperture door and said plainly, "Sure, Fan Shilu, please enter." Fan Shilu was surprised. Fang Zheng had just become an immortal. The process was not over yet, but he had already changed his manner of speech with such a natural attitude. However, Heavenly Court seems be nurturing Fang Zheng greatly for the sake of dealing with Fang Yuan. I am actually quite envious of him. Several hours later, Fang Zheng's tribulation was past. Fan Shilu's envy rose again. It was because Fang Zheng's vital goo was successfully refined into his second blood path, Immortal Goo. Cold blood, Immortal Goo. Several days later, Immortal Crane Sect announced to the Goo Immortal world that Fang Zheng succeeded in his immortal ascension. He was once harmed by the vicious demon Fang Yuan. He was saved luckily and would now become one of the main forces of dealing with the demon Fang Yuan. Comment. Due to Heavenly Court's intentional propagation, news spread throughout the 5 regions. Fang Yuan's reputation was hit. His situation of being deserted by family and kin was highlighted, while Heavenly Court promoted its own magnanimity. Several days later. Spirit Affinity Fairy, goodbye. Above the clouds, Fan Shilu smiled as he spoke to Zhao Lianyun. Zhao Lianyun smiled. Thanks for hosting. She heard that Fang Zheng succeeded in his tribulation, so she came to visit him. Unfortunately, Fang Zheng was not meeting anyone. He was hidden by Immortal Crane Sect. Fan Shilu did not dare to be rude to Zhao Lianyun. She was the current generation fairy of Spirit Affinity House. Even though she had rank 6 cultivation level, she controlled rank 9 love Gomor. Fan Shilu assured, I will definitely pass your gift to Fang Zheng personally. Zhao Lianyun nodded as she thanked him and flew away.